right, what a beautiful day. What a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I don't know how the rest of that song goes. Won't you be my neighbor? Is that the same song? What are we gonna talk about here? Walk and talk. Walking. Is this video number 4 of the year? I think we're averaging about a walk per month. I mean, I aspired for more. But an excuse to get a little exercise in is good, right? Better than nothing. Better than nothing. Optimism, bro. What are we gonna talk about? We're gonna talk about control. What we can control, what we can't. Feeling sorry for ourselves, victimization. Of course, we're gonna talk about love, right? What would a defending champ video without that? I mean, come on. We don't want to get crazy. We don't want to get crazy. And I may forget to talk about all those things all together. And who knows? We never know. But those were the ideas. Anyway, oh no. Wait, I said this is an optimism pilled video, I think. Or something like that. So we can't complain about the noise pollution. We'll go a different direction. That's there it is, folks. There's your metaphor for the video. Sometimes you just gotta go in a different direction. Avoid by the way, is that the house? Yeah, professional golfer. Yeah, I don't want to dox anybody, so I won't say who it is, but professional golfer lives there. His wife was actually at, I was getting Charlotte's nails trimmed. She was at the vet the other day. Practically makes me a celebrity. Anyway, let's get into it. That's enough of a 2.5-minute intro. So, one thing kind of connecting to the usual themes and the theme of the last video, getting into politics a bit, but from more of a psychological perspective. The zooming out, not getting into policy debates, but, the more zoomed out approach of it all, of what's happening. Why is it happening in the psychological sense or whatever? How does it contribute to your personal well-being? Or not contribute to it. I'm not going to talk too much about politics here, but the reason why I'm bringing it up at all is I do think it connects to what I wanted to talk about, which is control. And politics, it's a pretend way to think that you're engaging with life in a meaningful way, for the most part. This is not getting into if your life is actually you're a campaign manager for a politician or whatever, putting those exceptions aside. And the reason why I'm bringing this up in the context of control, it's like, I think we don't want to address the few, depending on how you look at it, few, but maybe many things that we do actually have control over. So we have so little control, and we're going to get rid of it. We're not going to get into free will versus determinism too much here, I don't think. We're going to do the whole thing where either way, if you're a determinist, you still got to live as if you have free will, because you have no choice but to feel that way. So we'll put that aside and go with the assumption that we have some choice in this life. But what we do know is that so much we have no control over in terms of bigger picture things. Like you're not gonna determine the next election. Your vote is not gonna decide whether weed becomes recreationally legalized or abortion, whatever. Your vote's just not gonna do it. I'm sorry to say. Maybe that sounds black-pilled or something. I think it's more, whatever. What's the word for realism pilled? Purple pilled? Should we say purple pilled for that? No, probably not. That's another thing. But some kind of pill. But so control. And I think one of the things, if not the number one thing that keeps us from, oh look, I'm passing by my grandmother's old house, and they turned the roof into a metal roof. I don't know how I feel about that. Wait. The irony of all these thoughts came up about that house, and I won't get into the details, but the irony is things that I can't control about the past and the way I wish things had gone in various ways, or should have, or could have, or would have. And so I guess that's good. I guess it's not good to have those thoughts, but it's good that it's on point with the theme, which is, assuming what we're trying to get here on the Defending Champ channel, but probably in life in general, is you want to be enlightened, right? Maybe not, I don't know. Maybe there's something else you want, whatever that is. But you want enlightenment. And what is enlightenment synonymous for? I would say you want some sort of inner peace. You want to be able to feel as comfortable as you can, I think, with who you are, the world that we exist in. And probably, like I was saying, the biggest part of that is the accepting what you can't control. And even thinking about this in relation to the politics thing, what makes me sort of dislike or lean more towards the right or the left in any given moment? I don't know if this is connected. We'll see if I can connect the dots here, but just thoughts that have been rattling around, so we'll get it off my chest. It's when someone is very unappealing on one side, right? Elon Musk accidentally giving the old Nazi salute, kind of makes that side a little less appealing to me. Or someone on the left, totally buying into the most extreme version of the woke ideology, where it's just sort of just the usual identity politics thing, where they just can't stand anyone who supposedly inherently has power in society based on their religion or skin color or genitals or sexuality and all that kind of stuff, and the complete inability to have any sort of common sense when it comes to just obvious things, like the big L. The big L for the left is got to be the I said I wasn't getting into policy here, but we're whatever. Who cares? None of you fucking pay attention anyway. I can say whatever the fuck I want. I can do whatever. In fact, the Forget Picasso anthology. Is it called an anthology? Discography? I don't know what's the word. But I put all those songs, or most of them, on private a couple of years back for my own reasons. But for now, get them while they're hot. Get them while they're available. You never know when they get privatized again. Those were some good songs, by the way. Forget Picasso. I mean, it was a flash in the pan, overnight success, and faded away. But the best usually are like that, right? Anyway, I was going to say the big L for the left is the trans sports thing. And it's in the grand picture, I do acknowledge, right, how is it the biggest issue of the day? Should it be? No, of course not. But if you have such an absurdly stupid take, it does weaken your other, even if you have, like, let's even just say, theoretically, right? Not that this is my position, but we'll just go with it, that the left was right about 99% of things. But they pick one thing to be really, really stupid on. It does sort of cause a disservice to the other things, right? And you might want to say, well, come on people, like, ignore that 1% of things, focus on the 99% that they're right about. And that might be true in a perfect world. But that's not how life works. That's not, you know, you might convince some people to kind of see the light in that way, like, hey, who's right most of the time? But you still gotta pay attention to how things actually work out and what causes wins and losses and people to be turned off. And if you're super stupid about one thing, even if you're brilliant or spot on in your assessment of a lot of other things, it can cause a lot of damage to both in politics and just on an individual level. Anyway, I don't remember how this connected to what I was talking about, so I have to remember how to tie that in. I guess somehow I was loosely connecting this all to sort of like control, what you can control, what you can't with politics and with everything in life. And what did I say? I wanted to get into sort of victimization, right? We have to, and I'm saying this personally about myself, but also everyone else. A lot of us have this tendency is sort of feeling sorry for ourselves. And I say this in recognizing I do have some good reasons to feel sorry for myself. Not that I haven't lucked out in many ways in life, but I've also had some bad luck in ways. I've been through some pretty bad things, and even aside from the objectively bad things that I've been through that hopefully anyone could probably empathize with, sometimes you're just blessed with a troubled mind that even if sort of on paper your life should seem pretty decent, if whatever has caused your mind to be in that troubled place, you know, this is where all that sort of subjectivity comes in. But yeah, I mean, someone could be living in a gold castle with a million items of luxury and friends and 27 beautiful wives, whatever. The point is that all that really matters when it comes to, let's say we're going to use the word privilege, right? What really matters at the end is your subjective, I mean, I hate to use the word subjective even in this way. That's maybe for another video, getting to the subjectivity stuff, which of course I've talked about a million times, but is the subjective nature of happiness, well-being, suffering. And so, you know, who cares about whatever is supposedly a privilege or how you ought to feel? What matters is, I guess, how you do feel, right? Anyway, this is not to say that that's sort of a way to dismiss things that are issues that should be resolved. To say, well, everyone should just be content. But no, there are things that really just, sometimes life sucks, obviously. Or I'm gonna pause this video for a second. All right, apologies for any snot that you've noticed. It's gonna have to be in the video. Can't start over now. But yeah, I stopped the video because there's people walking behind me. Needed a little space. So where were we? You know, there's obviously a part of me that's a little reluctant to say any of this stuff because, you know, it's all kind of expanding on the most cliche, or one of the most cliche of things, which I like to have some sort of originality in my ideas and not just, you know, pushing the obvious. You know, what's the, you know, have the wisdom to know the difference between what you can and can't control, and whatever it's called, serenity prayer, or whatever it is. But sometimes we do need to, at least for myself, I think, expand on some of these cliches that actually are relevant to really have a chance at actually embracing them, right? Like, think of all the times where people love to read through books of, you know, inspirational quotes, or they'll share some inspirational quote, but you know, it's fleeting. And maybe the only way to make that not fleeting actually is what might be seen as overthinking it or philosophizing or whatever. So that can actually be ingrained in the way that you see the world, not just a 2-second feel-good moment, and then you go back to the usual patterns. I've talked about this many times. You have to actually, you know, we're all a product of various forms of brainwashing, whether we've brainwashed ourselves by what sort of books we read, what sort of media we consume, who our friends have been, what our childhood's like. But if there is any way, you know, of course we can say, well, people don't change and your brain gets developed by the time you're 25 and da-da-da-da. But let's just say if there is a chance of you becoming someone a little bit more happy, a little bit more content, which I think there's evidence for that too, right? People do seem to sometimes have a horrible first 40 years, and then they kind of have a chill 40 years after that. I think it happens, you know. It's possible. It can happen. Angels in the outfield. It can happen. And so with that, yes, it's kind of, you have to brainwash yourself in the other direction. You have to flood yourself with the right messaging, or the messaging that you want. And so, yeah, I mean, as this connects, I guess, loosely or weirdly to politics, it's like, that's not the right thing. It's not the right thing to obsess over. I don't think there's anything wrong with having an opinion, right? But to fully understand and embrace, like fully get like your opinion on abortion, on trans stuff, on billionaires and taxes, on foreign policy, and healthcare. It's not to say that a lot of these, or maybe all of them to one degree or another, are serious issues that impact people's lives, but just you having your opinion in itself is not going to move the needle on your own life, right? And if you want to move the needle on your own life and other people's lives, it's more of the unsexy messaging of empathy, kindness, right? You know, even the left who kind of tries to pose as that at times, like, you know, with the sign, they used to have, maybe they still do, but I used to see some signs in people's yards, you know, love is love, like all this kind of, you know, the virtue signaling stuff. And it's like, couldn't a sign, if we're gonna virtue signal, couldn't a sign that everyone puts in their yard, right, across the political spectrum, theoretically, it would just be 2 words: be kind. Be kind. And I get it, right? It's like, oh, that's easy for you to say. You know, someone out there is suffering from this or that thing, you know. But in some ways, I would like to think that that falls under that category, right? It's like, if what went viral or spread was this thing of kindness, if the goal, right? Let's just say we're putting aside the idea for a minute that everything really, it's all this ego trip and this attempt to avoid mortality and to perpetuate one's power and seed and all that. Putting all that aside, if the goal actually is the world being a better place, right? And of course, I know we have different opinions about this and what makes that the case, but you would think the thing, maybe kindness, you know. But I acknowledge sometimes, you know, it is true that that's just not going to be enough for a lot of situations, for a lot of reasons. And unfortunately, honestly, I think one of the main reasons why that's not going to be enough is because you can't really get everyone on board with that, right? You can't get everyone on board with that. Like, as a starting point, honestly, like, I said in the beginning I wouldn't get into policy, but I also warned that I might not talk about whatever I said I'd talk about. So I can talk about, I can not talk about what I said I wasn't gonna talk about. But like with healthcare, right? It's like, I think you would think that we could all, at least as a starting point, sort of figure out like, okay, let's stop the bickering about the healthcare stuff and at least agree, like, we want everyone to have access with just stuff that's not really remotely could be considered optional, you know? That if someone needs a certain kind of treatment to stay alive, to be remotely, physically okay, right? Let's all get on board and creating a system that we at least know that that's the case. No one should have to be bankrupt or homeless or whatever to be able to afford to live. And we live in a rich country, so it'd be different if you said, well, we just have a society with very limited resources. There's just no way that everybody can get life-saving treatment. There's just not enough money to go around. No, there is. There's enough money for that. There's enough money for that to happen. So anyway, why am I even, I said that politics makes no difference. I can't change things, so I guess I'm just philosophizing and talking aloud. So where were we though? What was the main thing? We're talking about victimization, self-pity, control. I did want to get into love, and I did want to connect that to those other concepts of the control and feeling sorry for ourselves. And, you know, I think we have to try to somehow get out of these sort of warped things we've been taught, that we've been conditioned with. This idea that whether or not one person, 10 people, whatever it may be, whether they find you physically attractive enough to have sex with you, or to only have sex with you, or to want to call you their boyfriend or girlfriend, like the way we tie up our self-worth and this self-esteem thing and all that. You know, this is not me promoting that people shouldn't, well, even though I know I might have promoted that a bit in one of these last videos, but this is not me promoting saying, well, don't commit ever, don't get in relationships. But I do think the free love hippies thing was half true, at least. And the part that's at least half true is sort of, doesn't mean you have to go around just sleeping with whoever, which is maybe where certain aspects of that time, I mean, I didn't live in that time, but the impression that you get from it, it doesn't mean that, but it does mean the part that should be adopted and seen is you could really love a lot of people. And, you know, of course, if you have a lot of life experiences, and depending on how you've been conditioned, you might have super high expectations on, you know, sort of who is worthy of, you know, giving affection to, making a commitment to, and all that stuff. And it's certainly complicated and way more than I'm going to cover in this video here. But if you have the perception that, hey, you know, there's a lot of people in way worse circumstances than you are, in terms of, like, if you're insecure about things, most likely there's people that have it way worse, where they just have nothing going for them in any category, in any sense. And even they probably can a lot of times find a way to find love. And you might look at that as a way to even feel sorry for, well, well, man, that's even more of a way to feel. No, but the idea is just keeping in mind that, you know, if you want to choose to close yourself off to love, if you want to choose to sort of be very, we'll call it picky, but to kind of reject and dismiss a lot of people, then that's totally within your right and fine. But then you gotta, in that, you gotta let go of this, I'm a victim, no one loves me, I'm gonna sort of narrowly perceive my value and my luck or bad luck based on the 1 in every 200 people, or maybe even worse, 1 in every 2,000 or 2 million or whatever it may be, that I'm willing to actually give a romantic chance to. And it didn't work out with that person. Therefore, God, life's so hard for me. I'm so, you know, I suck. Things are terrible. And I say this with the self-awareness, you know, that I'm talking to myself in a lot of this too, not just to you, few people watching, but it's a false narrative. It's a false narrative, and a lot of times it really is that the truth will set you free. The truth can be a very dark thing at times, right? I think if you look at, you know, certain the aspects of life, the unavoidable suffering and the ending usually doesn't seem like something particularly worth looking forward to say the least. Here's some books. But despite me definitely not being the biggest proponent of optimism, there are a lot of negative ways of thinking that aren't realism. It's not like, you know, it's a very fake negative story about the subjective existence, right? Because most likely, here's the simple thing that probably applies to almost anybody watching this video. Most likely, if you want to go on a walk today, a beautiful walk, well, I don't know, maybe if you live maybe it's pretty cold, but even so, put on a jacket, it's okay. But if you want to go on a nice walk today, you probably can. If you want to have a full stomach and access to water and a shower, most likely, anyone watching this, you're good on that front. And if you want affection, if you want love, if you want friendship, it's probably available to you already. There's already people you could reach out to. And if not, you probably have the opportunity to take some chances and put forth the effort. And most likely, the only way that would be impossible for you to get friendship or love would be if there's just something you're not willing to work on at all about yourself. And most likely you're not in that category of that there's just something impossibly, irredeemably horrible about you that prevents you from having these things. But we can't always have everything we want at all times. The ultimate fantasy, you know, I can't necessarily walk around and say, well, I want that $5 million house on the river. Oh, I see that. There's a girl who looks like a supermodel and there's 500 guys after her. Well, I want her to commit to me right now. Well, okay. We can't get what we want all the time, right? And I think, and this is not me just saying this to everyone else, saying it to myself included, is that the sort of privilege, if you want to call it, is a thing that is not, it's not just a certain group of people. I mean, if it was a group of people, we'd just say, maybe I'll say it's Americans, right? And this is not me just sort of hating on the old USA or anything, right? God bless this country. God bless it, right? But yeah, that the things that people seem to worry about in this country a lot of the time across race or gender or sexuality, blah, blah, blah. If you're looking beyond, let's say looking beyond the healthcare issue, because that's one I like to think that we all could be more open-minded to seeing why that's an important thing. But anyway, no politics, I said. No politics. But it's that, what I'm trying to get at is that we all are a bit like crybabies, right? Well, I want this my way right now. I want this and this and this. I want a perfect house with the perfect white picket fence, and I deserve a perfect partner who's super good looking and doesn't have any of the mental issues that I have. You know? Gotta lower our expectations. Gotta lower our expectations and enjoy the beautiful weather. Enjoy the food, right? Don't complain about your normal good food. Oh, this isn't good enough food. This isn't good enough. So what am I saying? I'm allowing you to complain about healthcare because it's important to be able to have the medicine and treatment you need to stay alive and to you know, you have a broken arm and you have a disease or condition. Yeah, I mean, that I won't trivialize. But I think I'm willing to trivialize most other things. Most other things need access to healthcare, improving that system. Okay. Everything else, I think we should trivialize a bit more and learn to appreciate some things.